Welcome to the Beauty and You podcast, a safe place created for all women to come relax, get inspired, and be constantly reminded that they have not lost the ability to be who they once were. Join us as we dive into the true meaning of rediscovery through inspiring guests and topics such as healing, self-love, and creating a positive mindset. So sit back, relax, and get comfortable as we dive into this week's episode. Here's your host, Quita Mack.
Hey, y'all, and welcome back to another episode of the Beauty and You podcast. I am so excited as always. Our guest today comes all the way from the Cayman Islands. Tamisha Edwards is a professional chef, food event creator, pursuing a side love of food stylist and food photography. She graduated from Johnson & Wales University and holds a major degree in culinary arts, food and beverage, and service management, demonstrating her dedication to mastering the culinary craft. In addition to her major degree, Chef Timisha has a minor in baking and pastry, showcasing her versatile skills in event planning, which adds a creative touch to her culinary endeavors. As a driven entrepreneur, Chef Timisha is a proud owner of her culinary business and a testament of her entrepreneur spirit. Oh, I hope I got it all right. Welcome.
Oh, you just made me cry.
Welcome, Chef Timisha. I am so happy to have you here. I am so excited to share your story. And yes, you should be proud of yourself, Mom.
Ooh, you did. You made me cry.
Thank you for joining me.
I'm proud of all of that. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. And you should be. I am so touched by your story. I was talking to my husband about it after we met the first time. And it's just everything about your story was just so similar to my story. And I just can't wait to get it out there. But I'm going to let you tell your part. I want to get into your rediscovery journey and what led you to where you are today.
What led me to where I am today? Well, where do I start? So I think COVID hit. Let's start there. COVID hit, and obviously I'm in the food industry, and I didn't have a job. No one was traveling. No one was eating. Everybody was just literally in survival mode at that point in time. And we were completely locked down. If anyone heard on the news, we were completely locked away from society for about 2 years. So we had no tourist interaction. People were not going outside. We were on strict like lockdown time. And I just started thinking like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Time passed and I gave birth to a beautiful, who's now 3 years old. And I decided to stay home and just care for her in that time. And when I did, I realized that so many things were coming up for me, like job wise, inside, like who was I at that time? And I found myself slipping into depression because I poured my life into a job instead of pouring my life into myself first. I got touched with a friend from university who was in the baking and pastry side of my culinary journey. And she had started to transform her life into this beautiful thing that she has in front of her. And I was like, what is it? What is this? And she basically said, I just basically started with food. I started to treat my body like how we should treat our body by eating the things that we should eat, exercising, working out, taking time for myself, taking time away from being a mom, taking time away from being a fiance, a wife, and literally pouring into yourself before you could pour out. And I started to do those things. I started to watch what I was eating. I started to be seriously conscious about my workout routine and my habits and just pouring into myself. And I realized that I was, when I left culinary school, I had all of these great dreams that I wanted to to pursue. And I had all of these amazing things that I was going to do. And I got so trapped into what everybody else wanted, how I should cook, how I should present my food, how I should create an event, how I should feel about food. And just being on this self journey of just rediscovery made me realize that that force to be reckoned with, that didn't care when she went to culinary school, that didn't care what people thought, was still there. And I wanted to cook for the way it made me feel, the way I wanted to make people feel. And it didn't matter who didn't come to sit at my table. The people who were meant to be at my table were going to be there.
That part.
And I just wanted to cook because that's what I love to do. I love to create an atmosphere for people to feel loved through food. And I lost that. And here I am doing it again with an event this weekend. And I'm so excited.
Chef, I am extremely proud of you and just where you are with your journey and the amount of self-reflection that you have been able to do. I think people don't, and I don't want to say understand because they'll say like, oh, I get it, but I don't know if they do. When we become moms, our life truly does change. And it changes in so many different ways. First, our body changes. Let's just go right there. Everything doesn't come back the same.
Yeah.
So we have to deal with that part and that confidence part and the postpartum of the body. But then now you're responsible for a whole nother little human. And that kind of takes over. And you want to make sure you're the best for them. And then let you add being a wife or fiance in there, because then you're talking about, okay, I need to also be there for my spouse and I need to also be there for my child. And then you kind of go back and look and you're like, where am I at? I'm all the way at the very bottom and I'm
Yeah, the last
absolutely
20 seconds of the day.
exactly. And you're exhausted. You're exhausted. And then you can't answer simple questions like, what do you like to do, chef? And you're like, huh? I don't know anymore.
Yeah.
I really don't know. And that's the part of your journey that is very similar to my journey when we start talking about the rediscovery part. I had my son young. I had him while I was in college. And I had a couple of things happening around that time. I had the people that were saying like, oh, you're not going to make it. You're going to drop out and you're going to be a number, because I had him while I was in school. And then you had the other people that are just like, let me just sit back and watch what happens. And then you have myself that's like, oh my God, I have this little person I'm responsible for, and I don't want to go back home, but I also want to graduate school, but I also want to be in the Olympics. Oh my God, there goes my track. So it was such a crazy time of where I started just going through the motions of doing what I felt society said I should be doing as a mom. And at that time, I thought it meant that all of my goals, hopes, dreams, and everything I wanted stops completely because you're raising a little human. And that's all you should care about. And then your spouse comes next because you want to be a good wife. And then you start what you want to do when your child is 18 and when your husband or whoever has made it to where they're trying to go to. And so it's just, it's just so crazy how it shapes us. Do you think that society has a big role on how we view ourselves as women?
I think it has a huge role on how we view ourselves as women. You said that you had your son and you had all this stigma coming. I remember when I first decided to go to culinary school, I had at the time, she had just turned a year. I decided. And my parents looked at me and said, you know what, it's going to be hard for you to do her and school at the same time. And I was blessed for them to say, leave her here and go and finish. And I got every lashback because of it, just like you. I was a bad mom. I dumped my kids on my parents. I was never going to finish. I was going to go over there and flunk. What was I doing? I was doing culinary. I was going to serve people. That's a peasant's job. And in the beginning, I was all fired up. And as I started to go through the motion, those words started to completely echo in me. And that's all I heard. Society does play an important role. And I was fortunate to have people to push me through.
Mhm.
And at that point in time, I didn't realize of the importance of who you have sitting at your table, the people that feed into you. And it wasn't, sorry, until after all of that. And now in this rediscovery that I realize how important those people were that was sitting at my table, feeding into me for me to not let go of that dream. And how I have now added people to my table, being in this program, and just the people that I've met who've poured into me daily when I don't even realize it. I now take a conscious look at who sits at my table. I am the first person at my table and I create my table. And I say whether you can sit at my table. I no longer enter the room and think, do these people like me?
Mhm.
I now sit at the table and said, okay, you can have a seat. You can have a seat because I'm very conscious of who's pouring into me because society, and it stems way back from before we can even imagine. They pour into you.
Yeah.
So the voices that you have echoing your society around you that you create, because you are allowed to create your own society around you,
Mhm.
no matter what people say. And your outside circle are going to say what they want to say. But if your inside circle is reaffirming you and pushing you and speaking positive life into you,
Mhm.
there is nothing that your outside circle is going to be able to affect.
That part. I want to talk about the table because that girl, that table is so important. I love my table now, but it took me a minute to build my table, and I've had to kick some people off the table because some folks you think should be at the table, you realize they don't need to be there either. And I just think that's so important. I think that shows so much strength and growth when we start to realize that the circle around us matters, our environment matters, and not everyone is meant to go with you on your journey to success. You have to, I believe, at some point realize that because not everyone has your best interest, and you can't also share your dreams with everybody because, again, not everybody has your best interest. So that table, I'm with you. Yes, this is my table, and I'll think about it if you can come. You might be able to come.
So true.
So true, and it's so important. One of the proudest moments I wrote down. I like to take notes as you're talking. And I wrote down one of my proudest moments, and I want you to share one of your proudest moments as well. But throughout my journey, I go back to when we start talking about the naysayers, right? Like those saying that you can't do it and you can't make it. And I did use that as motivation, as I guess throughout all of it up until recently when I'm like, I don't care no more, I'm gonna do what I want to do. But it was my motivation. But to this day, my proudest moment is actually graduating with my bachelor's degree. That is one of my proudest moments because my son was 2 years old. And as part of my ceremony is when you graduate, you get your degree, but then when you're commissioning into the army, they do a whole ceremony in front of the graduation. And that was one of my proudest moments is having my little 2-year-old. And I remember him standing on my husband's lap and he's like clapping for me. And I was like, oh my God, I did it because he may not remember, but I remember, it was just such a moment of like, I did this. And maybe I did it to prove everybody wrong, but he got to see his mommy. There's video of him seeing his mommy finish, no matter what anyone said. So, what is one of your proudest moments to this date?
I just want to say congratulations to you in that moment because
You.
I know that moment. And it is always a moment that I look back on. And sometimes when I'm in my lowest, that for me too is my moment. And I want to say that, girl, tap your shoulder on the back every time, because it is not easy. I didn't have my daughter with me in school. And I can remember sitting in exams crying because I was so homesick and I was missing sports days. I was missing just, she wasn't feeling well and she wanted mommy and she had to Zoom mommy to get me. So I would sit in class crying and my teachers they would sit there and they would God used them to keep pouring into me and letting me know that this is where you needed to be. So at graduation for me, how it works for us is that they pick one student to carry the country's flag. And I was that student. So I was the last to come in after all of the graduation class that was there. And so the flags come in at the very end. And I can remember spotting my daughter standing.
I know, very emotional. I get you.
Caring for me. So I'm sitting in the front and graduation passes and it all passes and I go out and I run to her. We're running together. And she's like, Mommy, you did it, we're done. And I can remember just hearing, just clapping going. And I look around, it's my teachers.
Take your time.
It's my teachers giving me a standing ovation. And sometimes you go through moments, you think that you are just a number. But it was at that moment that God literally just started to show me the importance of a table, of who you have at your table. And that each one of these teachers was literally placed in that university at that time to push me through. And I think that was one of my proudest moments, was just knowing, like you said, I so did this. No matter if it was I wanted to prove people wrong or I was doing it for me. I did this.
Mm-hmm.
I was consistent. I pushed through. I had a goal. I had a dream. And no matter what people said, I kept going. And I did it. And it was that moment that I was like, there is nothing that I cannot do.
Can't do.
No matter how low I get, no matter how hard life gets, there is nothing that I cannot do because I did that 4 whole years. I did that with honors.
With honors.
With honors.
That is beautiful. And you need to pat yourself on the back as well. You're amazing. Everything that you're doing, and that's one thing that we have to learn to do is pat ourselves on the back. We're always going for the next thing. We're always like, okay, I made it. Now it's time for this. I made it. It's time for this. And we have to stop and really pat ourselves on the back and just look at how far we've come in our journey through all of it, through every single part, I'm all emotional. But because it's real and our journeys are real. And I just want people who are listening to understand that this stuff is hard. It's hard. And we're here to talk about the difficult conversations and the difficult parts of motherhood that people don't always talk about. We talk about the pictures and the matching outfits and, let's make cookies, but we don't talk about the real hard parts of it where we do lose ourselves in transition and we are trying so hard to be the best that we can be. And we have so many voices around us and we're always combating something. We're always combating somebody's thoughts or energy. And it's a lot of work, but through Chef's story, through my story, I want you guys to know that there's light there. There's light there. And if we can do it, you can definitely do it too. I need you guys to understand that. I want to shift over to just showing up for yourself, because as you started your rediscovery journey and you found your new circle that are very supportive of what you're doing, how important did you find that it is to show up for yourself? And what ways do you do that?
Showing up for myself. I think it really hit when I was trying to show up for my family and I couldn't. I just mentally couldn't. I was dying because there was nothing left. I wasn't pouring into myself. And even when people were pouring into me, it just didn't feel the same. And like I said, I reached out to this friend and she was like, come on, come. She's like, let me show you. Mm-hmm. Come with me. And we started just literally, like I said, with food. Started with food, started with working out. And I realized how amazing I felt and how much more I was able to give when I filled my cup first.
Mhm.
So then I would say, okay, I'm going to intentionally eat what I need to eat to feel my body, to feel amazing. I'm going to take that 1 hour a day and work out. This is my time. And I started to include my family in it. I started to let them know, okay, this is what I'm doing. This is mommy's hour to work out. I'm gonna work out. My fiance and my kids jumped on board very quickly. They saw the benefits. And I just started advocating for myself more. I started to no longer be silent. I didn't like something, I said it. I needed more time, I said it. We're still in that area of working on that, but I made sure that I advocated for myself. And I think that's so important as a mom, and not only as a mom, as a woman, you sometimes you sometimes get silent
Mhm.
and you talk a lot to yourself in your head. And that advocating for yourself gets lost. And you just don't do it. And you sit there and you're like, maybe I should have said something. So now I say something. Now I ask for time. I say, okay, I need a day a week in order to fill my cup to do whatever I want to do. Um, it is something that we have established in our household and still pushing through and working on it to make it consistent, where everyone in our household gets a day because I saw how much of a difference it made to me. I decided, okay, you know what? Everybody needs this.
Mhm.
So my day is my day, no matter what it looks like. If it looks like a beach walk, if it looks like I'm just going to sit on my back patio and read a book because that's my time. And just just advocating for myself, just showing up and saying, I am going to do this no matter how hard it is. I'm going to stick with this. I'm going to be consistent for me.
Yep.
Because I need this. And once I started to do that in little small tiny ways, drinking more water, eating the way I should be eating, to fuel my body, especially at the age that I'm at, things just started to shift. Things started to shift inside, and things are still shifting inside. And like anything, you have fight back, you have bad moments,
Mhm.
but I've had a taste of what it feels like.
Mhm.
So even in my bad moments, it's like I'm not going back. I
Ain't
can't
going.
go back because I've had a taste of what fueling me feels like.
Mhm.
And I feel so much more and I pour so much more out in my cooking and my family and my friends and just in my table when I am full. Yeah.
That part. I think that's really important. So it's like you're psychic because I just recorded a video on this that I'm going to post probably later in the week on communication, advocating for yourself.
I look out for it.
So it's so
Yes.
funny. So I'm like, oh my God, I literally just talked about this. I talked about it's called finding your voice and the importance of finding your voice and what that means. And it means just that, which is advocating for yourself. We spend so much time, and when I say we, it's mostly I talk about myself. Everything I talk about is, from my experiences. So I do recall moments where I was silent on the outside, but inside I was screaming. I was like, I don't want to do this. This is not right. This is not what I think. But because I didn't want to start anything and I just wanted to be like peaceful, I kind of just did it anyway. Right. But when I
Yeah.
found my voice, which now I have my voice, I'm very vocal and I can't go back. I can't go back. So it's so important that we learn to advocate for ourselves because if you think about it, we are literally advocating for everyone else, especially our kids. I'm like my son's number one advocate, all of them, but all the time I'm advocating, for something, anything that I feel it's not right. But yeah, it took a minute for me to realize like I have to speak up if I'm going to live the life that I know I deserve and a life that I am meant to have. I have got to advocate for me because no one else is going to do it. No one else is going to do it. They don't understand everything you're going through. And if you're silent all the time, then everyone thinks you're great. And that's not always the case.
Until you're not. And
Until
then
you're not.
yeah.
Right. And I don't want to go back. I remember them
I
dark
feel
days, the dark days, the depression days, the anxiety, I remember those days, and I do not ever want to be back in that space ever again. I can't go back. I can't. I can't. And so, yes, it is very important to advocate for yourself. And I'm very happy that you're able to advocate for yourself. It's crazy because we have our kids, and they're always watching, and everyone always says how my daughter is just like me, and I'm like, really? But she's like the adult me now, like the adult me, like the confident.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, she definitely advocates for herself. No issues at all with that. So, but she's me. She's 37 me in a 10-year-old body. I was not like that at 10. I remember being shy and so quiet and not wanting to speak. And so I think it's good. I mean, I'm like, yeah, she is, but I'm happy my baby advocating for herself, and I'm happy that
she got a picture early. She's doing it early.
She's doing it early.
I remember that being one of my reasons as well to just start advocating for myself, because my daughter's the same way. She just turned 14 and she advocates for herself very well. And I'm always pushing her and telling her to keep it up, to keep using your voice, because it's important.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day I sat and I was journaling, and I was just like, but you don't advocate for yourself. You don't do those things that you push her and tell her to do. And the phrase keeps coming back to me that our kids listen to what we do and not what we say. And I thought, how am I going to teach her to advocate for herself? How am I going to teach her to be strong and be independent if I'm not pushing to advocate for myself? If I'm not trying to be strong in the cards that I've been dealt? Because sometimes life gives us cards that we've got to play with them until we're able to trade them in. But how am I teaching her to deal with her cards? How am I teaching her to show up for herself if I'm not? And I think that's I always tell people that my first kid saved me. My second kid is healing me.
That's deep.
I don't know what the third one's going to do if we get down that road, but my first kid saved me. My second kid healed me. And I think that in itself is, whew, yeah.
That healing part. That part. You just made me like, because I remember as part of my journey, I didn't even want to touch the healing part. I wanted to go around that. Like, if I did X, Y, and Z, then the healing part won't really matter. I can just push it down until it kept coming back up.
Yeah. It starts to get nasty the more you push it down.
Oh my goodness. Yes. And I had to realize that I have to deal with these feelings that I don't want to deal with. One of the parts that really made me focus on me, the healing part of me, was my son Trey when he was younger, maybe he was 6, 7, but it was him, because I thought I was doing a very good job of like hiding it from them. And I tried to be like smiley, you're trying to you're trying to keep it going, because that's what we do. We put on this face.
Yeah.
I don't know, with the mom face, and we keep going. We don't want to show anybody anything. And so I thought I had my great mom face on. And I remember I was sitting on the couch in the sunroom with the other house at the time. And he came in and he's like, "Mom." And I was like, "Yes, Trey." He said, "Who made you so sad?" And I was like, "What?" Like, what? And he said, "Whoever made
how
my
did you
mom."
see that?
Yeah, like, "Whoever made my mom sad, I'm going to beat them up." And it just completely threw me through a loop, because I'm like, thought I was doing a good job pretending to be happy. And I thought I was doing a good job of not showing them that sad side of me at the time, but he could see it clearly, and he's very little. But that was my moment of like, all right, you know what? You have to heal. because clearly you're not doing a good job. And in that moment, I wasn't doing a good job because I was really skinny. I was always small anyways, but it was the unhealthy small. And the people were like, your clothes are fitting you different. And I'm like, oh, it's okay, but no, I was really stressed and I was depressed and I wasn't healed. But that's when I actually sought, the help that I needed to get to me, to get me where I am now. But yeah, that healing part, it's such a difference when you are healed. And I feel like every day is still like, there's no timeline on it. And every day you're still learning more and more about yourself, but it definitely plays a part in that rediscovery journey, whether it's something traumatic or your childhood or whatever it is. Like, I think it's so important to dig into it, no matter how nasty it is, and learn techniques and ways to heal from it.
And like I said, like if you don't heal from it, it starts to leak out and it starts to bleed into your life.
Mhm.
You were literally sitting there. And I think for me, that was a moment for me where I'm sitting back and I was like, who are you? Because I don't even recognize myself in. Who are you? And it's like, okay, God, you have to deal with this. We have to face this. I have no choice.
Mhm.
I was like, okay, let's do this. Let's do this. And my youngest is 3, and that's her. She will call me out. Why are you sad? Why are you crying? And I'm like, wait, you're seeing this at
Yeah.
3. You understand this at 3. And for me, it was just saying, okay, you know what? I'm going to do this. Tamisha, do you have control issues? Okay, let's deal with this because you're bleeding out on everyone.
Yeah. Hard. That
So,
self-reflecting is
yeah,
hard. That self-realization is so,
yeah,
it's so,
it's so hard. And I don't think you ever, for me, I don't think you ever fully heal, like you say, because it is a continuous journey because something always comes up.
Mhm.
But you learn how to look at it,
Mhm.
face it, mm, go back and realize, okay, this was the moment that this is when this lie was created in my life. Let me deal with it. Let me reinforce
Mhm.
the positive and the truth in this moment because that moment's going to always come up in your because we are human. That moment is going to come up. But I've learned for certain moments that when it comes up, I'm going to talk to myself nicely. I'm going to be positive and reinforce myself, recognize that that's a lie that's coming up, and continue to engrave those healthy pathways
Like,
for myself in my brain. And I think that's what healing is. It's always going to be a continuous journey. And as long as you wake up every morning and you have breath, you will be healing. You will be continuing this journey because every day is going to be something new. And before I used to shy away and be so scared, like you said, of healing or just scared of things that come up. And sometimes we find ourselves being crushed and saying, oh my gosh, and find yourself trying to jump down that rabbit hole. But it's like, no, I'm alive. So I can do this. I can heal. But it's this that's coming up. I know how to acknowledge it healthy. And I see it and it's like, okay, I got
I
this.
can do this.
I can deal with this. It might be messy now. It might hurt now. It might be confusing. I might get angry and I might literally sit on my floor in my kitchen and cry
And that's
and
okay.
scream and have to put on a song, but that's okay. That's the part. That's okay. Because I've recognized that that's okay. That doesn't make me a failure. It doesn't make something wrong with me.
Mhm.
This is life. But wait, I'm creating new and healthy ways to deal with this and to move on and say, okay, next. What else you got for me? What
Yeah.
else are we healing?
That part. I think that's so important. And always talk about your tool bag. Like every day we're building our tool bag. So when the situation comes, we can reach in, we can reach in and pull it. I'm like, I know how to now handle the situation. And if it's something that I haven't experienced before, then it's like, all right, what lesson do I need to learn from this? what self-reflecting do I have to do? I'm really big on journaling because it just allows me to get everything down on paper and allows me to go back and read it later. But just, I'm always like, all right, okay, this is not what I thought it was going to be. What am I supposed to learn? Because this is off. So let me go back and do the work, do the work of that. So yes, yes to us in our healing journeys. I want to shift. I want to get the mood going a little bit, pick it up some. And I do want to talk about you and your food and what an experience is like with Chef. So please walk me through what is one of your favorite dishes to prepare?
Oh, what is one of my favorite dishes to prepare? I get asked this question a lot, and I feel like it always shifts depending on where I am in my life. But what is one of my favorite dishes to prepare? So, oddly enough, I would have to say that it is the most simple thing that you would not think of. It's so simple. It is porridge.
Oh,
Yes, it is cream of wheat porridge. So this dish is, I'm gonna get so excited because I absolutely love this. This is my comfort food. This is my reason for me loving food. My love for food started in my grandmother's small, tiny little kitchen. And I would watch as she prepared mass amount of food for our whole family. Our whole family. And it wasn't because we didn't have our own homes or everybody ate from home. It was literally because everyone stopped in her kitchen every day before they went home to have dinner. And mass amount of food would just be, she would pour so much love into this food. And I can remember hearing the chatter in the background as I sit on the floor waiting for food, or so many people sitting at the table eating food, or just seeing the amount of food coming for Christmas and the amount of people that would walk through her doors, friends, family, and just the love of in the atmosphere, the love that everyone had. And I always felt like I always wanted to give that to people, that safe environment, that peaceful, loving environment. And for me, cream of wheat porridge is the one dish that connects me back to her. She passed in 2004, and that dish is the one dish that connects me with her. I literally take my sweet little time to create this dish that maybe takes 5 to 10 minutes. And that, for me, is my favorite
I love
dish
it.
to
I
create. Yes.
love it. And it's so crazy like how our grandmothers play such a huge role in our journeys, and especially talking about food. Like my grandma can cook. And I remember because my grandma, I feel like raised me the most. And so a lot of dishes I do cook are from her. But the difference is I have to still measure mine, and she never pulled out a measuring cup ever. She's always like,
Never.
how much? Okay, I'm making a sweet potato pot. How much do you put in it? She's like, just pour it. You just gotta taste it, baby. You gotta taste it. And when you just know, and I'm like, but how do I know?
Yeah.
Because it never tastes like it's
Just a little bit of hair, just a little dab.
here, a little bit there. And so it's just so crazy to me. But my favorite thing for my grandma to make, it's so random. I don't even think they really go together. But whenever I go see my grandma, she's always like, do you want me to make your food? I'm like, yes, which is fried chicken and lima beans. Don't ask me why. Don't know. But the way my grandma makes lima beans are just amazing. And I don't really know what she does.
It's the combo.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good. And she's like, they're so easy to make. And I'm like, no, grandma, they don't taste like yours.
Yeah.
So food definitely does have a way of bringing people together. And I'm just so happy that it's a part of you. Do you think that do you think your connection with food comes from your grandma, just from the feeling that you have and then becoming a chef on your own?
Yes, for sure. I always knew that I wanted to cook. It wasn't something that I pursued right out of high school.
Mhm.
I did finance, and I knew it wasn't for me. But again, I went with what everybody wanted me to do. And until I couldn't anymore. And our pre-interview, I remember saying that I'm a rebel. And that was my rebel stage of just saying, I'm just going to do what I want to do. But it definitely came from my grandma and the feeling I got eating her food, watching her cook, watching her prepare these foods, watching how people felt around her because of her food. I knew off the bat that that's what, deep inside, that's what I wanted to do. I try to always, when I prepare a menu, my items just aren't food and ingredients put together. They're always a story behind them. So it's literally like preparing the food, coming out the table, speaking to my guests, explaining to them what this dish is, where this dish has come from, why the sauce is the way it is, whether it's I went to my egg farm and picked fresh eggs and created a sauce for breakfast out of it. There's always a story behind every dish that I produce. It's never just a meal for me. And I love to impart that onto my guests that are sitting again at my table.
I will tell you that you can definitely hear the passion in your voice when you even talk about it. It just in your face, it just brightens you up. So you are definitely doing something that you love. What advice would you give to that rebel that's out there, that's always been a rebel at heart, but they find themselves teetering back and forth to what everybody's wanting them to do versus what they want to do?
Ooh, I'm supposed to tell you to remember your why because um, I guess the why helps you continue to do what you do. But I would have to say is that find just do it. Just do it because either way, if you don't do it, people are going to tell you what to do. And if you do it, people are still going to tell you what to do. So do what you want to do to make yourself happy because you will never be happy if you don't. You will always be searching for something. So just do it. Just jump. Just take a leap of faith and just say, you know what? I'm going to make myself happy. It doesn't matter if it's a full-time career direction that you're going to go, or if it's just a hobby and a passion that you explore and do on the side. But do it anyway because life is too short to not do what you love. I always I always I always say that with a thought in the back of my head. I had a dear friend who passed away from breast cancer. And at the time, she was 31 years old, 31 years old. And to say that she did not live a full life would be a lie. She lived a full life and did whatever she wanted to do. Wore the heels when they told her no. Wore the big poofy Carrie Bradshaw dress because life was too short for her. And I think sometimes we get so comfortable just living life that we forget that we are only here for a short time.
Mm-hmm.
So do what you want to do.
Yeah.
Just do it. Like I said, whether it's a hobby or if it's a full-time profession, just do it. People are going to talk anyhow.
Mm-hmm.
Who cares?
People are
Who
going to talk.
cares?
Yep. Whether you do it and you don't do it, and while you're doing it, they talk all the time,
Yes.
no
And
matter what.
keep rediscovering because there's one thing that I've learned on this journey is that your why will always be your why you started, but it will always evolve as you evolve.
Yes.
And you will always find a new love and a new direction for for what you do. When I started culinary, I had a different love and a different, it was all just about fancy and I wanted to do this and I wanted to do that. And as I evolve as a person, my love for it has changed because of who I'm becoming. So it will always change. Your why will always change. It will never be the same.
Right. And I think that is the importance of just starting, because it does change. It kind of grows with you. Like once you get out there and you start following your passion, whatever your passion is, you'll start evolving and changing and growing and adding this or taking away that, or finding what works, what doesn't work. But you can only figure that part out if you start.
If you start.
You don't start and be like, oh, I have this great idea. And it's like, that's cool. What else? What else? Like, come on, do it.
Yeah.
Do it. So I think that is just wonderful advice. Do you have any special offers or anything like that you would like to share?
Not at the moment. No special offers. I will have an event this weekend. I'm so excited for it. We have literally created this perfect tea time pop-up surrounded by my amazing banana bread in a plant nursery, where we're creating a space for people to just be and just enjoy themselves and meet people. And I can say this here because by the time this comes out, the event will be over. But it's literally a reintroduction of Tamisha as a chef. There will be secret one bite items and beverages that were not advertised that nobody knows about. There will be things like a little welcome booklet as you come in, or servers will greet you and tell you a little more about the event. You'll be able to just relax in this amazing tranquility space that we have created, that I've created all around my amazing banana bread. Yes, we're looking to do more of those as I reintroduce myself. 'Cause like I said, I've been off the market for about 3 years. So I'm slowly reintroducing myself as this evolved Tamisha and sharing more of food in the way that it makes me feel, in the way that I want it to make people feel.
I'm so excited. One, I wish I could come. I am so excited. I know this event is going to be amazing. I hope you take a lot of pictures and videos so I can stalk you.
Yes, I will for sure.
On social media. But I want you to really, when you go to your event this weekend, enjoy the moment. And I want you to take some time during that event to definitely pat yourself on the back, because you're being intentional about what you want to do. You're being intentional about which way you're able to go with your dream, and you're doing it. That part, like we say a lot of times, I want to do this and this would be a great idea. It would be great for me to rediscover and reinvent and me to do. But you said all of those things, and now you're coming back even better than you were before. And so please take the time to enjoy your moment, your beautiful event, and pat yourself on the back. I'm extremely proud of you. I love what you're doing. And I just know that this is going to be great. And it's just going to be the beginning of many, many more. Like once you get going, it's gonna be like, oh, I'm doing this and I'm doing that. So I know for a fact that you are definitely headed in the right direction.
I'm excited.
Thank you so much, Chef, for joining me for this episode of The Beauty in You and trusting me in your journey and your process. I just can't wait to continue to watch you, and we're going to definitely continue to grow together.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It is a pleasure to be sitting here with you. And it's so amazing because you absolutely get what you need at every moment. And I'm a strong believer of that. Thank you for reminding me and for reinforcing and just letting me hear my own voice. I think that is so important. And I think that's what this moment is for me, is just taking the time to listen to my own voice. And like you said, be proud of where I've come and the work that I've done and where I'm going. And I'm excited. I'm super excited. Wherever it takes me, wherever it evolves, I'm super excited.
As you should be. I am here for you. I am just one click away. So if you need any quick motivation, just let me know. I got you. Like, hey. I am definitely here for you. So thank you guys so much. And until next time.
Thank you for joining us on this week's episode of the Beauty in You podcast. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. Visit us at thechiquitamack.com or join us on Instagram at thechiquitamack for your daily motivation and inspiration. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Until next time.